I am profoundly sad and extremely angry. It is another senseless act of violence, gun violence, and it's the second child that we've lost to gun violence in the past week.
I'm heartbroken to be here today for losing another kid in the Syracuse City School District and in the city of Syracuse to the nonsense and the violence that are taking place in our community.
We've reached a tipping point, and our emotions and everything else is spilled on the floor, so now's the time.
Hello everyone, breaking now. It's difficult to come up with words that have not already been said. A community fed up. Enough is enough. Community leaders say they're looking for solutions, and everything is on the table after a 12-year-old boy was shot to death. James Springer was taken to St. Joseph's Hospital in someone's private car after he was shot in the stomach at about 9:30 last night. He was then rushed to Upstate Hospital, where he died at about 3 o'clock in the morning. His family says there will be a vigil at the crime scene later tonight. Last night, city police called to the area of Park and East Division and John Streets on the north side. Springer and a 33-year-old woman who was grazed by a bullet had been shot. We've just learned that that woman was the young boy's stepmother. They were shot in the 100 block of John Street. Syracuse Police Chief Frank Fowler clearly boiling over this.
I will say this, and I really can't go into detail about this, but here it comes. There were some things that occurred in that neighborhood and the days leading up to this that we weren't aware of. Had folks in that neighborhood called the police, we would have been able to intervene. Now, I'm not saying that we would have saved this child's life, but I'm saying to you that I would love to have had a chance to save this child's life.
Breaking now at the scene of the crime, police have not revealed any suspect information, although did say they are seeking tips on this case. We have extensive team coverage on the way here on CBS5. Dan Massinio has been in that neighborhood with people who say they're sick about what happened. Stephanie Stanovich, live at University Hospital. The potentially life-saving difference between driving to the hospital or calling 911 for an ambulance. Tommy Sladak at Grant Middle School, grieving the loss of a young student. And Kelly Curtin has the police chief's impassioned call for more help from the community on issues of crime. And coming up on CBS 5 News at 5:30, City Mayor Ben Walsh is live with me one-on-one to talk about this shooting and the recent spate of violence and this disturbing trend involving very young children. Right now, the Weather Authority forecast and meteorologist Wayne Mahar.
And Michael, let's start out by giving you an update on what was Hurricane Michael, because it's now a tropical storm and it's working on through the Carolinas, exactly on track as expected. Here's the latest for you. Here's the satellite radar for you. You can see it obviously spinning around down here. It's just around Raleigh-Durham right now, the center of it. Highest sustained winds now down to 50 miles an hour. It's heading off to the northeast at about 24 miles an hour. So it's going to continue to track through Virginia, through Washington, D.C., Baltimore with a little bit of wind, certainly some rain working on through New Jersey, and then eventually probably grazing New York City later on tonight and tomorrow morning, as it will then exit away out off into the Atlantic. And for us right here locally, Mohawk Valley, Central New York, as we've been talking about, very little direct effect from Michael. Here's a look at what's going on around here right now. Live triple Doppler radar brought to you by Falso Service Experts. We have been in and out of some wet weather today with a cold front moving through and still a stripe of some rain with a few downpours running from the Adirondacks, heading on down to the east of Utica, down around the Route 88 corridor. That continues heading away. Behind it, we're drying out. If you're going to be out and about this evening, I'm not saying it's going to be 100% dry, but any steady rain, I don't think we'll see that. However, wouldn't be surprised to get a little mist, a few sprinkles around here and there. Temperature-wise, hour by hour, 61 degrees at 7, 57 degrees at 11. Later on tonight, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're down to around 50. So the forecast for tonight, we'll look for evening showers, primarily east and southeast of here right now, continuing to exit. Otherwise, mostly cloudy overnight, couple of sprinkles, a little mist, a little drizzle, and the low tonight, later on, 49 degrees. I'll be back with a full forecast. We'll look at the weekend coming up in a few minutes.
Thanks, Wayne. Just after 5, here are the top 5 stories on CBS 5 News. Breaking live to Raleigh, North Carolina, Tropical Storm Michael bringing whipping winds and heavy rain across the Carolinas and parts of southern Virginia. Some areas now dealing with flash flooding there. Meantime, rescue crews are sifting through piles of debris after Michael tore through the Florida Panhandle. It made landfall as a Category 4 storm at Mexico Beach, Florida yesterday. The storm already responsible for at least 6 deaths, but authorities say that number is likely to push higher. Just moments ago, stocks dropping dramatically for a second day. The Dow Jones lost 545 points after yesterday's nosedive on Wall Street. It marks the 6th straight day of losses for the market, which has been rattled by rising interest rates, signs of a slowdown in the global economy, and the U.S.-China trade dispute. Under arrest in Madison County, a Sylvan Beach man facing felony drug charges after authorities say they found a meth lab in his car. Sheriff's deputies pulled over 54-year-old Patrick Sobel on Monday night, and during a search, they found a one-pot meth lab and other materials used to make the drug. Startling new video from Texas. A customer at a gun range was caught pointing a weapon at his friend's head while trying to take a selfie. A range safety officer who was teaching a class in the next lane quickly stepped in, forcing the man to put the gun down and then escorted both men out. Managers at the gun range have sent that video to all of their employees as a training tool. The search is on for suspects wanted in an armed robbery on Tipperary Hill in Syracuse. It happened at about 1:30 this morning at McGavin's Pub on West Fayette Street. An employee told police 2 men with guns demanded cash out of the register. They also forced customers to turn over their money and personal items before taking off. Frustration with city street violence hits a brand new high after a 12-year-old boy was shot and killed in Syracuse. Let's get the facts first on CBS5 News at 5 o'clock. It happened on the north side just after 9:30 last night. Police responding to a shooting call in the area of Park and East Division and John Streets. They later determined that a 12-year-old boy had been shot. The victim, James Springer. He was a 6th grader at Grant Middle School. We've learned his stepmother is the 33-year-old woman who was grazed by a bullet during the shooting. It's breaking now. CBS5's Dan Massinio spent all day in that neighborhood.
And sadness and shock have been spreading through the community throughout the day upon hearing that 12-year-old James Springer III died. Some I've talked to say violence has gotten worse over the past few years and something needs to be done to end it. Neighbors say they don't know what to say and they don't even feel safe walking in their own neighborhood. The local chapter of Mothers Against Gun Violence says there are no easy solutions to this. The president says she was in disbelief when she learned a 12-year-old boy had been shot and killed.
And I'm just going to keep spreading the word and letting people know that enough is enough and it's time for us to stand together. We are losing our children.
Jones says gun violence is a problem with no easy solution, but she says anything is possible. And now with yet another victim, this time a 12-year-old child, there are loud calls tonight for something to change.
Something to change. And the police chief being very forceful during that news conference. You were there, almost shouting, saying there was something up in that neighborhood for a couple of days and people weren't calling it in.
Yes, and you know, that intensity was shared by several of the city leaders today when talking about this. One thing we heard several times, this has to end. Enough is enough.
We've been hearing that for quite a while.
We have.
Dan, thank you. Our team coverage continues with CBS 5's Stephanie Stanovich. She's with the Live Eye at Upstate Hospital now.
Michael, yes, the 12-year-old boy shot was taken to St. Joseph's in a private car and then transported here to Upstate. This hospital has a level 1 trauma center, so they are equipped to treat gunshot wounds. Today, we spoke to emergency officials on what you should do in an emergency, and they say you should call 911. In an emergency, panic sets in, and there can be confusion on what to do.
911, Isaac, where's your emergency?
Bill Bliley is the commissioner for the 911 center in Onondaga County. He says every situation is different, but in any type of emergency, he suggests leaning on experts for help.
I can tell you that there are many things that go in your favor when you contact 911.
It's their job at the center to connect people with the right resources quickly. Bliley says dispatchers are trained and can give life-saving medical advice over the phone, while help is on the way.
We guide people through performing CPR on victims. We guide people on how to control bleeding.
When you call 911, dispatchers will ask key questions.
It will help us identify what type of resources, from basic emergency medical technician up to a top-level paramedic, that we need to send. And then there are certain hospitals that specialize in certain things. Some will not handle serious trauma cases. Some will handle, that's pretty much their specialty.
By calling 911 and going to the hospital in an ambulance, appropriate medical experts during the ride will immediately start helping the victim.
Time is always of the essence.
Bliley tells me in New York, by law, they have to answer a phone call within 10 seconds. He says it may take a little longer to answer the questions, but it's important when saving a life. Reporting live in Syracuse, I'm Stephanie Stanovich.
Stephanie, thank you. Our team coverage on this deadly shooting of a 12-year-old boy continues on CBS5. At 5:30, the city mayor, Ben Walsh, one-on-one to talk about what happened and where we go from here. At 6:05, the Syracuse police chief fired up why he says at least some of the responsibility lies on just more than the next person who's hired to lead the police department. And at 6:09, how the community at Grant Middle School on Syracuse's north side is handling the shocking and sudden death of a youngster. James Springer was 12 years old. His mother told me this afternoon over the phone her son did not deserve what happened to him. We'll be right back. Breaking live right now at Park and John Streets on Syracuse's north side. A large gathering at the scene of a significantly high-profile crime and a brand new scar on the city of Syracuse as a whole. Last night at around 9:30, police say 12-year-old James Springer was shot in the abdomen. He was taken in someone's private vehicle to St. Joseph's Hospital, then immediately rushed on to University Hospital, where doctors worked for several hours, we're told, trying to save the young boy's life. They were unable to. He died at around 3 o'clock this morning. Earlier today, Mayor Ben Walsh told reporters, quote, "Nothing is off the table at this point about potential solutions or new actions that might be taken amid the rampant gun violence involving children in our city." We'll continue to watch that live picture and things develop. A vigil planned for a bit later this evening to honor the 12-year-old boy. Let's turn things over to Wayne.
Well, around here today, we've had some off-on wet weather with a cold front coming through, but let's finalize what's been going on with the remnants of Michael. No longer a hurricane, but Michael now working on through around Raleigh, Durham as of late afternoon, heading into Virginia, eventually going to head out off the coast. Again, most of this, as we've been talking about, is going to stay down to the south of us, but the high sustained wind still around 50 miles an hour as it heads away to the northeast at close to 25 miles an hour. Back up here, we're going to find that we've got a little bit more wet weather coming up, but it's not from Michael, but a cold front that moved through today is going to eventually give us enough chilly air crossing the warmer waters of Lake Ontario. Yes, we're back to talking about lake effect. Lake effect rain showers, lake effect sprinkles. Here's what's going on. Triple Doppler radar brought to you by Fall Service experts. And as of late this afternoon, we got this leftover line of rain stretching on down through the Mohawk Valley down to around the Binghamton area. This line of rain is moving slowly away. Behind it, if we're going to be out and about this evening, there may be a couple of sprinkles. I don't expect much more than that, maybe a scattered light shower. But later on tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday, the cooler air or colder air a few thousand feet up crossing the lake gets deep enough that we get a few lake effect rain showers and sprinkles spread out across the western Mohawk Valley and across central New York. So temperature-wise, hour by hour, this evening we're on the way down to 61 degrees by 8. 54 degrees by 2 in the morning, 51 by 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we should bottom out down around 49 degrees. So that's the forecast for tonight. Evening showers pushing further out to the east. They're going to be exiting. Otherwise, cloudiness overnight, a few sprinkles around here and there, probably not much more than that. And it will be cooler with a low temperature for tonight at 49 degrees. Now looking ahead, looking on into the weekend, here's what we're looking at. For tonight through Saturday, cooler, some scattered showers and sprinkles from time to time. Sunday, probably, I would think, the best day of the weekend, the best day of the next several days. Sunday, still cool, but some sunshine and dry, and then early next week, continued cool and somewhat unsettled. How about viewing some leaves this morning? Here's the fall foliage update for you. 85% color change around the Tug Hill on up into the Adirondacks. Most of the immediate central New York area working on almost a half peak. 7-day weather outlook for you. 53 degrees for tomorrow, Friday. Some scattered rain showers and sprinkles around. Saturday, crunch home opener. 49 degrees, scattered rain showers. Cloud sunshine, 55 on Sunday. That's my latest forecast.
Thanks, Wayne. Coming up on CBS5 News at 5 o'clock, Hurricane Michael tore across the Florida Panhandle, and it destroyed a lot of things. We'll take you into the damage zone to see up close what neighbors are up against now. You're watching CBS5 News at 5 o'clock. Hurricane Michael's damage is now becoming clear a day after it came ashore. Breaking now, Hillary Lane takes us into the damage zone.
Entire neighborhoods are flattened in Mexico Beach, Florida, where Michael made landfall as a catastrophic Category 4 hurricane. There's nothing but concrete slabs where houses and businesses once stood.
Total devastation. It's leveled. Things that were on the beach are now on the other side of the street.
Trees are snapped. Boats are tossed out of a canal. The town's water tower is tipped over. Officials are warning people to stay away.
Roads are not open, and you will not be able to get home if you live in or near the coast.
Hurricane Michael also ripped through Panama City Beach here, completely destroying this automotive shop. Many other businesses here also suffered major damage.
It was wild.
Gary and Pam Barr ran from their veterinary hospital to a former bank building across the street to ride out the storm.
We're in the vault.
Pam and I were in the vault with a couple of 3 animals.
The Barrs said they felt safe inside the vault, but couldn't really hear the storm.
It was very interesting because when the roof blew off after we'd only been there maybe an hour and a tremendous noise, you could tell something bad happened outside.
Eventually, the vault ceiling started leaking and caving in, and the Barrs started praying.
We held on to our hands and went, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and we're together. So it's okay.
The couple says all of the animals under their care survived the storm. Michael is now roaring across the Carolinas. Damage in the region is estimated to be in the tens of billions of dollars. Hillary Lane, CBS News, Panama City Beach, Florida.
Breaking live to Park and John Streets in Syracuse. Have we reached a tipping point on city violence now that another young child is dead? Is there a solution to this? Is there more than one solution? What if there isn't? What does the mayor have to say about this stain on the city? We're about to find out as we continue here on CBS 5 News. Kanye West at the White House today, and the event seemed to leave a lot of people in the Oval Office speechless. Scott Thuman reports.
More than 2 million people behind bars in the United States as prisons overcrowded and overwhelmed. One of the topics discussed over lunch between President Trump, musician Kanye West, and football legend Jim Brown.
But this hat, it gives me power in a way.
These high-profile meetings have yielded results before. President Trump freed Alice Marie Johnson, a woman serving a life sentence over nonviolent drug charges, after Kim Kardashian West took up her cause.
Whatever motivates the support of the White House is fine with me, if it's Kanye West or Jim Brown, whoever it happens to be. But this is overdue.
Senator Durbin believes prison reform and sentencing reform should be combined and could earn some rare bipartisan support, but there are skeptics.
As a former prosecutor, I know that anecdotal information and celebrities may lead in the wrong direction.
But even in this White House and the administration, there is serious disagreement over these proposed changes between the president and the man who would, in theory, oversee them.
I heard your attorney general doesn't want prison reform. Jeff Sessions is standing in your way.
Well, if he doesn't, then he gets overruled by me because I make the decision. He doesn't.
Considerations range from a ban on shackling pregnant prisoners, reducing the age for elderly inmate compassionate release from 65 to 60, require inmates be kept within 500 miles of family, and provide $250 million over 5 years for work training programs. include new court guidelines reducing harsh sentences for some nonviolent offenders, and it may just be enough to get congressional approval after midterms. At the White House, I'm Scott Thuman.
And this is the focus of our question of the day. You can answer it under the news tab at cnycentral.com. The top 5 stories are all new next at 5:30, and Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh is with me one-on-one to talk about what happened on the north side last night, the death of a 12-year-old boy, and what is going on in our community as it relates to very young people and violence. It's 5:26, and that's live Triple Doppler radar. Meteorologist Wayne Mahar is tracking the precipitation that move out of the rain. So what comes next? He'll detail it for us right off the top at 5:30.
This is CBS5 News at 5:30 with Michael Benny.
Where do we go from here? A 12-year-old boy shot to death on Syracuse's north side. A high-profile crime that would be a tipping point had we not already seen other recent violence involving very, very young children. At this point, the police investigation has not turned up an arrest in what happened last night. In an all too familiar chain of events, James Springer was taken to St. Joseph's Hospital in a private citizen's vehicle last night just after 9:30. Then he was rushed to Central New York's only Level 1 trauma center, Upstate University Hospital. He died sometime after 3 o'clock this morning. Live to the crime scene right now, there has been a steady crowd here in the last half hour, 45 minutes, including people who say they are fed up with violence in the city of Syracuse. On the scene last night, after CBS5 News at 11, I went there and neighbors told me that there was a neighborhood watch meeting just a couple of hours before the crime. And the chief of police said today that investigators learned of things that they could have looked into, but they only heard about them after the shooting. The mayor will join me live as we continue here on CBS5 News at 5:30. People across the country are checking their freezers after a company in Arizona recalled 6.5 million pounds of beef that could be contaminated with salmonella. Dozens of people in at least 16 states are sick. Ileana Diaz reports.
Here's her bowl.
Brianna Woodard is worried the ground beef that she used to make her family spaghetti this week is tainted with salmonella.
It's terrifying because I fed that to not only my family, but I fed that to my children.
Woodard bought 9 pounds of ground beef last month, weeks before Arizona-based meat processor JBS Tolson announced it's recalling 6.5 million pounds of raw ground beef and patties because of possible salmonella contamination. The CDC says at least 57 people from 16 states have gotten sick after eating tainted meat. 14 have been hospitalized.
Most commonly in people who ingest this organism, they'll have upset stomach, diarrhea, sometimes cramps, maybe even fever.
Dr. Alan Tagey of the Cleveland Clinic says most people will recover in 3 to 7 days.
The key is to keep yourself hydrated. If you run a high fever, if you don't seem to be getting well, you should always check with your physician.
The raw beef was packaged between July 26th and September 7th and shipped to retailers nationwide, including Walmart. Recalled packs are marked EST 267.
I just want every family member to get out in your freezers and check your meats. This is very serious.
People are being urged to toss the recalled meat or return it to where they bought it for a refund. Ileana Diaz, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Back to Syracuse's north side right now, where we're watching what appears to be the start of a vigil. The family members of the 12-year-old boy who was shot to death last night say that one is planned for later this evening. Earlier today, at a news conference at Syracuse Police Headquarters, the mayor of Syracuse said justice will be served. He also said nothing is off the table at this point when it comes to potential solutions or maybe new actions as the city tries to take on a spate of violence involving very young children. The mayor also said that we need the community to work with us. He says, we want to know who has a gun under their mattress. And the mayor will be my guest live here on CBS 5 News as we continue to watch this sad scene unfold once again in Syracuse.
Well, around here today, we've had some off-on wet weather with a cold front coming through, but let's finalize what's been going on with the remnants of Michael. No longer a hurricane, but Michael now working on through around Raleigh, Durham as of late afternoon, heading into Virginia, eventually going to head out off the coast. Again, most of this, as we've been talking about, is going to stay down to the south of us, but a high sustained wind still around 50 miles an hour as it heads away to the northeast at close to 25 miles an hour. Back up here, we're going to find that we've got a little bit more wet weather coming up, but it's not from Michael, but a cold front that moved through today is going to eventually give us enough chilly air crossing the warmer waters of Lake Ontario. Yes, we're back to talking about lake effect. Lake effect rain showers, lake effect sprinkles. Here's what's going on. Triple Doppler radar brought to you by Fall Service experts. And as of late this afternoon, we got this leftover line of rain stretching on down through the Mohawk Valley down to around the Binghamton area. This line of rain is moving slowly away. Behind it, if we're going to be out and about this evening, there may be a couple of sprinkles. I don't expect much more than that, maybe a scattered light shower. But later on tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday, the cooler air or colder air a few thousand feet up crossing the lake gets deep enough that we get a few lake effect rain showers and sprinkles spread out across the western Mohawk Valley and across central New York. So temperature-wise, hour by hour, this evening we're on the way down to 61 degrees by 8. 54 degrees by 2 in the morning, 51 by 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we should bottom out down around 49 degrees. So that's the forecast for tonight. Evening showers pushing further out to the east. They're going to be exiting. Otherwise, cloudiness overnight, a few sprinkles around here and there, probably not much more than that. And it will be cooler with a low temperature for tonight at 49 degrees. Now looking ahead, looking on into the weekend, here's what we're looking at. For tonight through Saturday, cooler, some scattered showers and sprinkles from time to time. Sunday, probably I would think the best day of the weekend, the best day of the next several days. Sunday still cool, but some sunshine and dry. And then early next week, continued cool and somewhat unsettled. How about viewing some leaves this morning? Here's a fall foliage update for you. 85% color change around the Tug Hill on up into the Adirondacks. Most of the immediate central New York area working on almost a half peak. 7-day weather outlook for you. 53 degrees for tomorrow, Friday. Some scattered rain showers and sprinkles around. Saturday, crunch home opener. 49 degrees, scattered rain showers. Cloud sunshine, 55 on Sunday. That's my latest forecast.
Thank you, Wayne. Live to Park and John Streets on Syracuse's north side right now. Neighbors last night told me they had a neighborhood watch meeting just a couple of hours before this happened. The police chief said today that investigators learned of things that were happening in that part of town that they could have looked into had they only heard about them prior to the shooting. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh has been on the job for 9 months and 11 days, and he's here now. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Tough to bring you in on a day like today, but there's some things that need to be said. I got off last night at 11 o'clock, finished the news, went to the scene. I saw the police chief, and he had a look on his face. I had a look on my face. I said, Chief, what the hell? He said, I'm thinking the same thing. What are you thinking?
That's what we're all thinking. It's a combination of frustration, of profound sadness, of outrage, and we're all struggling with those emotions and trying to focus those emotions on solving this problem that plagues our city and plagues cities across the country.
What did you do today on this, aside from that news conference where some people may have seen you earlier in the day?
I did a lot of listening. I had a already pre-scheduled engagement with some Henniger High School students, and I looked around at a group of seniors and I said, this young man would have been sitting in your seat one day, and now his life is lost.
What did the students say?
They see it, they live it every day, and they are just as outraged as we are. And so we talked about it. We brought in a lot of our community partners, folks that are out on the streets in the neighborhoods every day dealing with this issues on the front lines, just searching for answers, ensuring that we are in lockstep with each other to do everything we can to stop it.
It was said today that the child involved in this likely lived in chaos. And certainly I was on the scene last night. I drive through the city every day. I know that there are pockets of the city that look like not just 12-year-olds are living in chaos, but that babies are being born into chaos, that adults are living in chaos.
Yeah.
How is it that we have a city where I live in my neighborhood where there isn't chaos, but I drive 2 minutes away and it's utter chaos? This didn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't, and we're not going to solve it overnight, but I am committed to solving it. And the fact is, just because you don't live in the neighborhood where there is chaos, that doesn't mean that you don't own it, and that I don't own it, and that the entire region doesn't own it just as much as those that are living in that very neighborhood. This is a problem that affects all of us, even if we don't see it right across the street from our homes.
So what do we do?
Well,
I'm in too. The deputy mayor said I'm in. Jaime Alicea, the superintendent, said I'm in. So I'm telling you I'm in. What do we do?
Right. Well, it's important to note that we're doing a lot now. We have officers working around the clock, not only investigating crimes, engaging with those that are most at risk for this violence on a daily basis. We have a gang violence task force. There is a lot we're doing. We even just brought on a firearms dog that specializes in sniffing out firearms. And so there is not a solution too big or too small that we're not willing to explore. And we just have to continue to look for where things are working and not be afraid to implement them and take some risks. So we need to see what's working. We need to focus on that. And to your point about chaos, these are not individuals. They are part of family networks, neighborhood networks that are dealing with trauma every day. So it is a multi-pronged problem that warrants multi-pronged solutions.
The neighborhood where this happened, like some other pockets of the city that I was talking about, where we get a lot of that chaos in people's lives, it doesn't look great at all. I mean, it's a poor neighborhood that has been allowed to, in the estimation of some of the people that live there, and even an outside casual observer, you would think this just doesn't look like a neighborhood that I would choose to live in. However, some people can't help the fact that they live there. What do we do about those pockets of the city where bad things are seemingly bound to happen?
We need to invest in them. We need to invest in the people that live in these neighborhoods, and we need to invest in the neighborhoods themselves. I have to think about the way in which I, as mayor, can have an impact. When you look at infrastructure investments, we talk about sidewalks, potholes, the investment in those neighborhoods or lack thereof is correlated to the problems that we're having. So we can't turn a blind eye. We have to invest in these neighborhoods and in these families.
What if there isn't a solution to this?
I refuse to accept that. I'm an eternal optimist. In every one of these cases, when I have engaged with families, whether it be at the hospital, whether it be in front of their homes, these are human beings that have real emotions, real relationships, and so I will not accept that. And these are human beings that they want to see better for themselves and their families. So we're going to keep fighting. We have to hold those that are responsible accountable for these actions, and we have to get at the root causes that are creating this environment, which is a long-term fix.
Curfew on the table?
At this point, we cannot dismiss any solutions. Again, we want to look at what works. We cannot allow our emotions.
We've been looking at that forever, though, haven't we? I mean, we have been looking at how to solve this problem. We're upset about this right now because we've seen all these young people involved. But this certainly has been looked at. Does anything work?
Again, we have seen certain things that work. The point is, not enough is being done. Clearly, we have not found all of the solutions yet, so we have to keep looking for them.
Everyone is so angry about this. You're angry about this, I
am.
can tell. I am boiling over this.
Yeah.
Mayor Ben Walsh, I hope we don't have to talk about this again.
Thank you, Michael. Me too.
Thanks a lot for being here. We'll be right back.
It might just be the most anticipated opener for the Syracuse Crunch since 1994. Good evening, I'm Nico Tamuri, and the Syracuse Crunch set to open the silver anniversary, the home schedule of it on Saturday. Joining me live in studio, Senator Gabriel Dumont. Gabriel, thanks so much for the time. Obviously, you're just in Rochester last night, so it's a busy schedule. 2 games in, 1 win, 1 loss. It's a young team, but there's obviously a lot of playmakers out there. How do you guys feel about this going forward?
We just got to keep working. I think we had a really good game in Hershey and not so good yesterday in Rochester. So like you said, it's a really young group and we're still building.
We're looking now at some of the renovations to the War Memorial. Obviously that video board, this is before its completion. It's huge. How exciting is it that the old barn has some new digs going on?
Really exciting. You know, we always like to say that we have one of the best crowd in the league. Now we have definitely one of the best, like you said, board and all the new renovation they did. I think it's going to be great, especially with that crowd.
We know that obviously this town, you saw it during the Calder Cup run last year. We saw how this town rather gets behind this team, how excited they get. Knowing that you're a part of this 25th season, this 25th home opener, how exciting is that?
Really exciting. I mean, like I just said it, I think it's probably the best fans in the AHL that we have here in Syracuse. This place is always packed, always jamming. There's nothing better than playing against Syracuse, and like you said, the town really rallies behind the Crunch. So it's really exciting to be part of that 25th anniversary. And you never know where your career is going to bring you. Is there something special? Is there a special honor to being a part of a milestone for a franchise that is so well supported? Of course, you always think about that. You know, 25 years. There's so many players that have gone through wore the jersey, and you're lucky enough to wear the one on the 25th year anniversary. So I think it's going to be a great moment. I'm really excited for it. Awesome. Gabriel Dumont, thank you so much. 7 o'clock Saturday night at the War Memorial, the Crunch taking on the Charlotte Checkers. Will bring you the best plays. It is Thursday, time to check in with this week's Toyota High School Athlete of the Week. We stop at CBA today. Cross-country runner Liv Morganti is the real deal. In 8th grade, she was a part of the 4x4 state championship track and field team at CBA. As a sophomore, she helped the cross-country team win a state title. Now, she's a junior, already holding 6 different school records. It's impressive, but she hits the books hard as well, and that's just as impressive. Liv looks to compete in college as well, but right now, she's focused on leading her teammates to a 3rd straight Section 3 and now 2nd straight New York State title.
We focus on mostly positivity, and that's what we like to remind each other of, because it's hard running, it's hard doing that to yourself. And we'll remind each other before practice, you guys stay positive. Doesn't matter if you had a bad day at school or a hard test, you have to come up here ready to run and ready to work. And it's kind of like we're all just there for each other and support each other through the rough days and help each other build so that we can get stronger as a program.
She's PR'd every season that she's been in our program. She's gotten progressively faster. Her training this fall has jumped to a whole new level. It's the new challenges for her, and she accepts them and always has new goals and kind of understands long-term goals and short-term goals.
Now, by the way, at the end there, that is her pre-race, pre-sprint routine that the team wanted to show us. Congratulations to Liv, this week's Toyota High School Athlete of the Week. That's your look at sports. I'm Nico Tamurian.
The Perp Patrol is back with cases in Tompkins, Oneida, and Onondaga counties. This week, we have a bank robbery suspect on the run, a farm stand ripoff, and more. Ithaca police have an open bank robbery case. The suspect hit up the Tompkins Trust Company September 20th. Video from inside shows a man in black pants, white sneakers, a green hoodie, and a flat-brim baseball hat. His face in a white cloth. The video also shows the suspect aim a handgun at tellers. Anyone with a tip should call Ithaca police at 607-330 all zeros. Police in Manlius want help finding the person caught on camera at a farm stand. They say it happened at the Nakotra farm off Collimer Road on the 1st of the month. Police say the person seen here is shown on camera damaging a locked cash box. If you have a tip, Town of Manlius Police would like to hear from you at 315-682-2212. This is 55-year-old William Blake, wanted by state police in Ithaca for a probation violation. The original charge was in Dryden in 2015. State police would like a tip at 607-347-4463. Stephen Recor is 36 years old and wanted for criminal possession of stolen property. Police in Marcy say he stole golf clubs during a home break-in back in May. Anyone with an idea about his whereabouts should call state police at 315-366-6000. You can review these cases and the tip lines and share it all from the CNY Central Facebook page. The Perp Patrol is back at this time next week. Coming up on CBS5 News at 6, everything is on the table, the mayor says, and he refuses to believe there is not a solution to the street violence killing and injuring very young children. Breaking news on the death of a 12-year-old boy last night as we continue.
A growing gathering here to mourn the death of a child. Coming up, we'll hear from parents of students at the middle school where the 12-year-old attended.
We've had the cold front moving through today. We've had some off and on wet weather today. Behind that cold front, as this wet weather starts moving away, we start talking about lake effect. Lake effect rain showers and sprinkles. My complete forecast and a look at the weekend is coming up
On CBS 5 News at 6.